Let's celebrate 10 years of One Direction and listen to their best hits, only on Spotify.
Pernah dengar lagu yang asik banget? Lagu yang nadanya nempel terus di kepala.
Halo kuda. Halo. Kuda. Are you there? Kuda. Dia, temanku nih. Bisa nggak dia? Kuda. Kuda, are you there?
Halo.
Halo. Cek dulu temanku ini bisa nggak pakai Zoom-nya nih. Di malam udah latihan berkali-kali.
Ari.
Halo, kuda.
Man.
Yes, are you there? Can you switch on your video? Okay, the boss. So, okay. Can you say something so that I can make sure that your voice is, we can hear your voice over here? Hello? Can you say hello? Aku kedengeran. Oke, jas abang nih. So you wear suit. Hello? I can't hear you. Can you say something? Halo?
Kedengeran dia kayak itu apa?
Can you say something? I cannot hear anything from you. Say hi. Oh, very. I can't really.
Babi. Nanti
Apa? Gimana?
Di record ya?
Oh, siap. Pak Mas Bromo yang ini jadi hostnya, Pak.
Oh, udah ya. Oh, kamu di ini ya? Di
Iya, Pak.
Jedis ya?
Iya, Pak.
Can you speak kuda?
Ari, can you hear me?
Suaranya kuda kecil banget.
Iya, aku bilang sama dia ini.
Hi, Ari.
Yeah, very clear.
Halo?
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 Hi, Ari.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Right.
So I would like to introduce you to some of participants here. Zain Maulana is a colleague at my department. He is a lecturer at International Relations Department. Okay.
Halo. Halo,
Wow.
Kuda. Nice.
Hi, Zim. Hi. Good to see you. Yes.
He is the one who's going to invite you regularly to this university.
Don't give me a lot of work, man.
Projects,
right.
About peace,
okay.
Human rights, etc. Security.
So
because you are working on security.
You were in private, Kuda, yeah, with Ari, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. We were together
I was
there.
in Leeds.
Seriously? How come I never met you? I met Said.
Oh, Zaid, yeah, because Zaid live in Bradford,
yeah, but he was studying from Leeds, right?
Bradford, yeah. Much cheaper in Bradford.
Yeah, I happened to. Of course, yes. So I was work, man, guys.
So always every day. I'm at the office now at the uni.
Okay, brilliant.
And there is also Mahbi Maulaya. He is the moderator of this discussion.
Right.
Hello, Dr.
Mahbi. Hi, how are you? How come you pronounce my name so nicely?
My name is Mahdi. Yeah, allow me to become the moderator for this afternoon, for this morning discussions. Okay.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have informed Zaid last night. He said he's going to join.
Oh,
Let
really?
me remind him again.
Oh, okay. That would be wonderful.
Could you mind that we wait for a couple minutes? I'm waiting for other participants.
Okay, brilliant. I know what it means to put people together. It's not an easy task. People tricky me at different levels and different times. So don't even worry. You guys, you need to come here and also do the same, man.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's something, what happening in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia,
We don't have those experiences, so in most cases our analyses are very narrow because we don't have that expanded horizon of what is happening elsewhere. So it's always good to have friends like yourselves coming in to give lectures, even through Zoom and the like. Yeah.
So yeah, actually the uni, invite us to do more collaboration, research collaboration. So
is it?
Yeah, through this discussion, it will open up this opportunity for your institution or institution in Africa and in Asia to to write a proposal, research proposal, and do field work and I think
okay.
That will be
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think like we have been sharing, I'm now the leader of the program of peace leadership and conflict transformation in the northern part of Zimbabwe. So it's a fairly new department which requires a lot of support, a lot of expertise. So I think we need to do lots of collaborations there. Yeah.
And then doing this discussion is an opportunity for us to know each other, to get to know each other. Okay.
Right.
See, share our expertise, our work, our projects.
Right.
Maybe there is a potential collaboration over there. Not only for research, also for teaching or doing community development works.
Right.
In Indonesia, all undergraduate students, they should go for community development projects for 1 month or so. They go to the field, this will be also an interesting topic sharing. Yeah.
All right. So does your university allow students to go overseas for industrial attachment or placement?
Yes.
What is it like?
We call it, how do you call it? I'm not sure how to say it in English. Yeah, we got two options in here. Either you go for the community development project, or you stay at an office, or how you call it, the foreign minister office, or our and they can do research over there, actually, not only helping the administrative duties, but also doing like collecting some data, discuss
Right.
discuss it, and they create research over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. So I think there's that potential there, especially in Africa. And in Zimbabwe in particular, you're aware that Zimbabwe is a fragile state. But in terms of security, international people are highly respected and are highly protected. We don't have occasions when international visitors are actually either mugged or killed or so. So, and the level of education here is quite excellent across the region and across the globe. So it will be good for your students actually to come this side and have some kind of experience.
Okay. Do you mind to tell us a bit about your university?
Yes. My university is called National University of Science and Technology. This university was founded in the year 2008, actually, in particular. It's a science-oriented university, which primarily focuses on science research and publication. It has got several degrees up to PhD level. And it's one of the best universities actually in the region, in Africa, because of its rigor in terms of research. Now, I don't have the actually details in terms of number of professors that are there, but it's one such university is actually endowed with quite a number of professors, visiting professors, lots of people with doctorate degrees there and masters as well, with a wide-ranging research areas. So it's situated in the western part of Zimbabwe, which is Region 5, a dry region. Deliberately so, because in the colonial period, it was one such region which was neglected by the white. Remember, Zimbabwe was actually colonized by Britain, where we were. So they didn't want to go to hot areas. So the place actually was not well developed compared to other regions. So there was that disparity or unevenness in terms of development. So the university was now situated there in order to build capacities of the local people in terms of science, in terms of research, in terms of development. Yeah. So, yeah, that's.
How many students you got?
At the moment, we've got 15,000 students.
Quite big, eh? In total.
Yeah.
How many?
In total, yeah.
Students you enroll in the university in each year?
Each year is close to 2,000. We have got 2 intakes.
Oh, you got the same like
in
England?
Yeah, the same like in England.
Okay.
Yeah. We use the British system anyway.
Okay. So
that's the system that even the curricula and most approaches and methodologies are still largely British. For me, I was taught under the British way. So
okay. But no pressure. Yeah. You still have to go with visa.
No. The ice is tight now. But don't forget that you see, Zimbabweans were now allowed to enter Britain with a visa up to 2012. We used to go there without any visa or so. My trip to UK before, I didn't have any visa, or just buy my air ticket and go to UK and then do shopping and then come back. Now you are required to have a visa.
Yeah, because the situation.
Right.
Okay.
That's great. So you have connected.
Can we start right now, Dr. Ari and Dr. Kudakwasi and Dr. Zain Maulana?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me begin.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone in Indonesia, and good morning to Dr. Kudakwasi there in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for having us here. And allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mahdi Maulaya. I'm a research assistant here at Center for Development International Studies. Allow me to accompany you to have this wonderful discussion. For your information, Center for Development International Studies is a research center under the shade of Department of International Relations of University of Muhammadiyah Jakarta that aims to provide scholarly discussions and also research concerning the issues of development and international studies. And the webinar series is one of our programs to provide a forum of discussions that we usually invite whether they are practitioners or even or experts or academics to explain to us, to talk about the issues of development international studies. In these occasions, in the 7th webinar series, we raise the issues entitled Applying International Relations Theoretical Approach in Research, Social Constructionism and Political Economy. To help us to understand how can we apply this to theoretical approach in research, we bring you two distinguished and honorable speakers. The first is Dr. Ari Kusuma Paksi, and the second is Dr. Kudakwasi. I would like to say hi first to Dr. Ari Kusuma Paksi. Hello, Dr. Ari. Thank you so much for attending this event. We cannot wait to hear from you about the explanations of our topics today. And also, I would like to say hi to Dr. Kudakwasi. Hi, Dr. Kudakwasi.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here. It is an honor for us to have you here to explain a little bit about our topics today. And before we're going further, there will be an opening remarks delivered by the Director of Center for Development International Studies, Dr. Zain Maulana. To Dr. Zain Maulana, please deliver opening remarks to our participants today. To Dr. Zain Maulana, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Probably it's not an opening remark, just to say hello to say thank you to Dr. Ari and Dr. Kudakwasi for being able to have our invitations and for your a willingness to give to share your research on your expertise, social constructivism, and Dr. Ari on a political economy approach. We think that understanding the use of a particular approaches or perspective in international relations research is very important, because we would like to hear from experts that they are doing some research by using a particular approach and perspective, and we want to learn how they apply, how the process, and how they build an argument between the evidence they got from the field or from the literature, and how they apply or use a certain perspective or approaches and build the argument and the entire an article or thesis. So we believe that it's gonna be a very interesting discussions today with Dr. Kudakwasi and Dr. Ari Paksi, and both of you are who were graduated from one of the well-known university in the UK and the world, from Bradford University. And unfortunately, I never met you while you were in Bradford. So we met now through an online official meeting. So nice to see you, Dr. Kodawashe, and once again, thank you for the next, I think, the very interesting discussions today. So thank you, Dr. Kodawashe and Dr. Aripaksi. So please, Mahbi, continue the discussions. I can't wait to hear the presentation from those two experts on the field. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Zai Maulana. Dear participants, Dr. Kudakwashi is a founder and coordinator of Peace, Leadership, and Conflict Transformation Programs at the National University of Science and Technology in Zimbabwe. Dr. Kudakwashi will, as Dr. Zai Maulana explained before, will explain to us the social constructionism. He will help us to understand how we can apply this kind of theoretical approach. And for our Dr. Arikusuma Paksi, he is a lecturer at the Department of International Relations at Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta. He is also a researcher at SEDIS, and one of the experts in political economy. Therefore, in these lovely discussions, he will explain the political economy theoretical approach. Before we continue our discussions, let me explain to you about the format of our discussions today. So we have two speakers. Each speaker will deliver their presentations. We'll talk about 15 minutes. And after that, we have the questions and answer sessions where all of the participants can ask our speakers questions. There are two ways for the participants to ask a question. The first, you can turn on your microphone and speak directly to our speakers. And the second, the participants can deliver their questions, your questions in the chat room of our Zoom meeting today. Okay? And make sure that while the speaker is speaking, make sure that your microphone is turned off so there will be no disturbance. Okay? To not wasting our time anymore, we will ask Dr. Aripaksi to deliver his presentations for about 15 minutes, Doctor. Okay, to Dr. Ari Kusuma Paksi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mahbi, for the time. So actually, hello, Bang Zaid, first of all. So Kuda is expecting, finally, we can meet, through the Zoom, through online talk discussion. So I thought that I'm gonna speak for about 20 minutes, but the thing is I got 21 slides, but because I think Kuda has discussed this last night, he has got around 17 slides, but we will try to deliver our point as quick as we can. But you guys, if you have any question, just let us know. If you are not really convenient to talk directly, just type in the chat box your question, or you just just make effort to speak in English. Although I know that I'm not as good as Mahbi, where he can really speak fluently in English. Okay, so to be honest, first of all, it's not an easy thing, to after PhD, you continue to develop your framework. The thing is, during my PhD for 4 years, I have a really good supervisor who really guided me, who really taught me about how to use this framework into practice to analyze my context, so that I can explain you here. But I'm not really an expert on this theory, but I can share you a bit about what kind of idea about this theory, and it's political economy. Let me open the slide. Okay. Okay. First of all, the title is Theoretical Approaches to Understanding Aid and Development. Yeah. As an international student, or you may come from different background, we have this course on theory in international relations. There are many perspective. There are many theories that we are discussing over there. Postmodernism, postcolonial, and then gender studies, for example. Here, I want to focus on political economy. The political economy itself comes from, like, if you look at the literature, there are debates regarding the aid itself, because we're talking about aid, aid for development. Because I'm a political economist, but my field expertise is also consists of aid investment Southeast Asia. Okay, if you look at the aid perspective, there are three debates over there. The optimists, like Jeffrey Sachs, who believes that, they argue that there is a problem on aid delivery, but there is a way to improve, to improve it. That's why we call it, I call it optimism. But the skeptic side believes that no, aid tends to damage developing countries by, like, uh, making conflicts, because the money itself from the aid tend to be taken by the elites rather than the poor people. So for example, scholar like Dambisa Moyo, who wrote a book about entitled, the Date Aid, she said that we should not really like rely on aid. Instead of we country in developing world should rely on themselves by, like, focusing on foreign direct investment, trade, etc. A very extreme neoliberal approach to development. But for the radical side, argue that aid, is a technology to exploit developing countries. It creates a space, a flow of capital, from the developed countries, developing countries, but in fact it's against comeback, to developed countries in certain way. Now, in here there are two perspectives again, below the radicals. Postmodernism governmentality and political economy. Now, in postmodernism, governmentality believes that, aid has been used, like, in certain way. If you see, like, for example, a scholar like Tanya Lee, she said in her book, The Will to Improve, she said, like, the the donors tend to use problematization and rendering technical to solve every single problem in developing countries. But in fact, the way they introduce solution is, like, is reflecting the Western ideas of development, not really based on the local ideas. But political economic side is different, to governmentality's argument, because political economy believes that when an in the aid delivery, there is a political contestation among various actors, including aid itself, donors itself, as part of that actors now. And they have to engage in the local political contest, which consists of elites and non-elite groups. As a result of this contestation, the policy or aid implementation will reflect, who are powerful actors in this relationship. Okay. There are some further readings that if you want to more understand about this, there are two readings at least that I can suggest you to read. Okay. Now, next, about the donor's power, you can cite Stephen Luke's books on how the donors practice their power in developing countries. There is a visible power, conditionality, invisible power to agenda setting. They set up national or regional priorities in developing countries. In some areas, when donors can set up agendas in particular countries. In Southeast Asia, they focus on what, particular program, for example. That's how they prevent the developing countries to work on their priorities. Instead, the priority of the donors will be dominant. Then there is hidden power. Hidden power means, like, the power to make something, is to make developing countries believe that something in their interest, even if it is not. In the reality, in development context, in the aid delivery context, this can be seen from the control language of development, training, capacity building, good governance. So the donors can say that no, for example, the case of Daniel Lee's book, yeah, donors come to Sulawesi and say that to like the local people, you got a problem of conservation, and they try to convince the local people that there is a problem on conservation, and then they offer a solution for it, through they say, no, you need this particular training, you need this capacity building, you need the good governance program. So, but in fact, it serves the interest of the donors rather than the local people. And beside of these the three phases of power, the put forward what Stephen looks, there is also the governmentality, come back from the previous slide. Yeah, but the political economists argue that this is not actually strong enough to say that governmentality is another phase of power of the donor, because for the political economy side, this governmentality power is best understand through the concept of hegemony, because in hegemony, the hegemony concept believes that in one time the local people will find their real interest. Therefore, they will against the domination of the donor. But on the other hand, governmentality argues that totally donor has got like more power compared to the local people. Okay. Before I've already introduce a bit about political economy. So the things is here, the theory that I tried to introduce to all of you guys is political economy based on structuralist perspective. Therefore I call it structuralist political economy. So you can see in here there are two debates, liberal democratic and structuralist. They are very different to see like development itself. It's not only for development. You can see for different aspects, in the policy making that can be used to see is a map, to divide the groups or the way we see the world itself. If you believe that in the liberal democratic, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, for example, you believe that society, yeah, equality, there is equality over there, and in democracy, for example, everyone has the same chance to pursue their objective, collective decision making, the best argument wins, temporary coalition lobbying. So if you believe with that development is about to promote equality of opportunity, then it means that your idea comes from liberal democratic side. But in the context of structuralists, they will find that development is is enough and unequal, because everyone has an equal opportunity. Those who has structural power means that they have power to dominate society. Now the dominant party itself is called elite. Yeah. They control power and resources to win. To dominate, to win the policy making, so that it benefits them and their group, and consequently, other groups become marginalized. Yeah, and then the type of coalition they have, not only temporary but also long term. Yeah. So the central argument of political economy, always when we talk about perspective, we always ask about the central argument. Like later on, you'll see how Buddha explain the central argument of constructivism. Yeah. So in my case, the structuralist political economy argument, it says that development is a side contestation between competing groups, which has different power, resources, political opportunity structures that have different interests, who engage in struggle over distribution of resources. And there is an ideology there. Yeah. So it believes that development is contestation. There is an ideology over there. There is a group of people over there, which is elites. And then the relationship among these actors affects the policy making and its implementation. So it's not only about the policy itself, but also how does it implement in the local. Yeah. So we will look at these two things, two parts. And then we also talk about the history. So we cannot really avoid to talk about the history of this contest. Yeah. Because even in my PhD thesis, I discussed about the history of the Timor-Leste's political contest during since started from the Portuguese era and how it's like continue happen up to the moment. So I'll explain you later about that. And then with the by using this structuralist political economy, I can then argue that in the healthcare sector, yeah, that the politics affects quality, quantity, access, and availability of healthcare. So I know my plan is actually to do research about Indonesia, but no, I haven't got that chance so far. But in the context of Timor, this is what I found out. So who are you? Which party you are coming from? Are you rich or poor? Then this is like these things will affect you. If you have money, then you can go to national hospital. But if you don't have money, yeah, you just use the general practitioner with limited, for example, health medicine. Or in the context of Timor, because of this situation, unequal healthcare facilities, they have to always use traditional medical treatment. That's the way they that's what they can access. Okay, so the unique of this political economy approach, I can then understand, because by using this framework, you just it lead you to choose particular books or idea that really support that the idea of your framework. For example, in here, I without by using political economy, then I can I can find some reference, how to explain, for example, resource cost in some countries. Now, why countries in West Europe, for example, they are much developed with their oil resources compared to those in developing countries. Then I can then explain this, because in developing countries, the informality tend to be dominant rather than formality. Yeah, like different to Western world, where uh, when the oil money started to support development, and then the government introduced some policy or some programs to aid the people in in the various aspects, in education, in healthcare, for example. It's different to what happened in the because especially like in Timor Leste. Even it had happened in Indonesia. So by using this, it becomes clear now. Okay, if you want to deepen your understanding about this, there are a couple of readings here uh, you can you can read. Yeah, this basically mostly published by my supervisor, and then yeah, it gives the one that I really I use often is the one on the right, the blue one, because it's really giving you an idea about structuralist political economy, and then how does it affect many affects our understanding about what's happening in developing countries. The left side, international intervention and local politics, it's a recent one published in 2019, I guess, but it also discusses about various level of powers work. Yeah, international, local. The supervisor discussed about the politics of scale. Yeah. So even the poor people has its politics. Therefore, my supervisor discussed about the poor people politics in Timor, and Facebook contestation and poor people politics. So there are various layers now. You can discuss if you want your to use this theory or framework as your the main expertise of yours. Yeah. So even me, I have a plan to ride with Kuda, but not yet happen up to now. So also because of these ideas, because of this framework, it always forced me to learn a lot about the theory. Although as a scholar and then young researcher, early career researcher, I know that the limit is to have like people to discuss about this topic, yeah, about the framework and how does it, we adapt it to research. What I can do now is just like not to really to the center, but very. I try to learn about this theory by public like writing some journal articles draft, which I hope that I can. It forced me to read again and again, then more understand about the theory itself. So there are some, like the first I have already published. The second one I'm working on it under like the major correction, but it's again no, it's not always talking about political economy, but some part of my journal draft comes from the idea of aid itself. What's happening in Timor-Leste? Then yeah, it's political economy, but I don't really like use that as a framework. But how the relationship between these actors over there, especially for example during the pandemic, it forced me to write the second article. Now the rest of articles just again becomes an exercise of mine to learn more about the theory. So and also Kudo always asks me to write. Very nice person of him. So this is part of my. So before we already discussed about the theory, the framework. Now this is really about practical things, where I try to point out, as a researcher, we have to like when as soon as we discuss or we understand about the theory, then we need to reflect that in our research. So I try to reflect that into my dissertation actually. Okay, for example, so this is the title: Doctors, Cuban, and the Veteran: The Politics of Ownership in Post-Independent Timor-Leste. In here, I discuss about because the optimists, the debate on the optimist group, they say that no, aid has some benefits if we can find a way to improve it. Now here, the most of the optimists believe that the idea of ownership is very effective, in aid practice. But here, political economy against this, criticize this, because, for example, in the ownership principle, partner countries commit to exercise leadership, making the national development strategies. Okay, and then to achieve these 3 points, the donors will commit to strengthen their capacity. But in fact, in political economy critics, the national development strategies itself is prepared by the donors, not the local. And even the capacity, which capacity that the local government needs, is defined by the donors. So you can see in here, the ownership in the ownership principle, there is a political side, the political side, yeah. And then therefore in some aid practice, ownership did not really successfully achieve, yeah, because this principle against doesn't really count into account the political side of this principle. Now again, in the politics of Timor-Leste, what I found that there are 2 significant strategies of the elites to win support from the population. The first one, patronage, rewards for supporters, and populists, where charismatic leaders or the masses of people seek to make the nation great and promote policies much driven by popular sentiment. Actually, there is also another one, which is more ideal, yeah, which is, we call it liberal technocratic approach. It means that policy making is based on expertise. But in the context of Timor-Leste, these true strategies becomes dominant now of the elites to win support from the population. So how have elites politics affect ownership in the context of one particular health program, the Cuban Doctors Program? A brief information about Timor-Cuba cooperation. Yeah. So after 1999, because of the conflict and violence post referendum, many of the healthcare workers departed from the country. So there are only 220 remain, with many health facilities damaged because of the conflict. So after that, the Timorese government decided to cooperate with Cuban government. They're happy with the Cuba because first of all, Cuba has the same the socialist approach to healthcare, and the second one, their effort, because compared to the Western workers, even during the crisis, Cuban health workers still stay in the country. But the Western medical, they leave. For example, in 2005, when there was a conflict in Timor-Leste, the West medical team, they immediately departed from the country, but Cuba no. So they are really happy. So they at least regularly cite their dedication to healthcare. But the things is what I want to say in here. Okay, they are the policy of having Cuban, the policy of the training with the support of the Cuban government is is aimed to improve the number of healthcare professional there, the capacity of the number of doctors. But the thing is the this idea is really based on the populace of the elites, because this elite, since history, they regularly promote the socialist approach to development. Yeah. So in other areas of development, the elites may use patronage, but as the health, is include in the ideology of the political party, of the dominant political party in Timor-Leste. So therefore, they tend to use populism, not the patronage practice. So the effect of this is dividing the healthcare professional into two groups. Those who are supportive to those who are welcome to Cuban doctors, to Cuban type of healthcare system. Those who are prefer to Indonesian, the neoliberal system. Because some of the senior doctors, particularly, they were trained under the Indonesian government. But as the elite has got more power in development, now since 2002, the socialist approach to healthcare becomes the system in Timor-Leste. Even to train to treat patient. If they cannot treat patient in the national health hospital, they will send it to international, to Indonesia, to Singapore, to Darwin, Australia, but it's under the government fund. So the problem is, first of all, the budget itself to the Ministry of Health is very limited. Is maximum 5%. So I try to point out here. But at the same time, because of the healthcare system is free, the Ministry of Health has to spend a lot of money without really getting more income. Yeah, even they have to pay the patient abroad. So it's really affecting the healthcare system. But of course, because of the power of the elites, they cannot really challenge that. Yeah? But having also the international doctors in the country, because there are many, immediately after 1999, there are more international doctors who support the healthcare system. Yeah, the problem is, although there are some benefits of the presence of this international doctor, but still, the system, the aid system, the aid principle who try to promote about the ownership, it's not really happen over here, because every single aid in terms of capacity, in terms of international doctors, they use different language. It affects then health delivery in the hospital. There is a power relations there. So even to provide healthcare treatment, with the patient, is not only about technical, but it's also about power relation, especially where it involves different aid partners. And also I try to be much quicker. I know, I'm not sure. I think it's already more than 15 minutes. And again, as I already explained before, the president of the Cuban capacity building corporation has divided healthcare, has divided healthcare professional in Timor between those who tend to support the Indonesian system and those who more happy with the social system, because especially young people, there are more young people who got scholarship from the Cuban government. These people, when I interview them, many of them, they are very happy, of course, because they say, no, the Cuban people, they're really dedicating their life for the people without really thinking about money. Some of them, they got paid $15 per month. But Indonesia, of course, if you are specially to get more money. So again, Fred, in my conclusion, I give that Frederick's ideology regarding the development of modern healthcare system for benefit of future generation leads to politician of healthcare that is conducted through populist rather than patronage politics. So the Cuban deal has some technical advantages, but is significantly motivated by populist concern. And then the decision to have Cuban aid has alienated health professionals who are largely empowered by the liberal approach to development. And then this also division, and then this makes national ownership more difficult to achieve. So these are some ideas that I presented in partially, in a very small part of my thesis, discuss about it, but to reflect the framework of political economy. Because there are 4 case studies that I discussed, and one Cuba is just one. Yeah. So I'll keep it for the future for publication maybe. Okay, that's all from me. Like you can discuss later.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Ari Paksi. It is a very interesting and insightful discussions that you have elaborate. And I catch a little bit from the discussions that you discussed the theoretical debate about political economy, especially the aid, about the aid concept, and also you have talked about the donor's power, and also the way how you have conducted research in Timor-Leste, and it is talking about the healthcare system there. Thank you so much, Dr. Arifaksi. Now we will ask Dr. Kudakwashi to deliver his presentations about the social constructionism. To Dr. Kudakwashi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would want to first thank the director there, Zain Maulana, for organizing this wonderful and knowledge exchange session. And to my colleague Ari, thank you for laying bare the concepts of political economy, of which I'm going to build many aspects of my presentation from. And to the facilitator, thank you so much. So allow me then to possibly share my presentation there on are you there with me?
Yeah.
And can you hear me? Are you seeing anything?
It's a process with
share screen, am I right?
Yeah.
It is still connected now. Yes, okay. We have seen it.
Is it connected now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd want to share a lot in terms of, sorry for that, I had not lifted it up to, yeah. So Dr. Ari talked about political economy in terms of research approach and in terms of research strategy. My presentation builds on that, and I want to claim here that political economy is not actually and cannot be a stand-alone approach in terms of yielding and generating credible data if it is not supported by social constructionism. My second claim to this is that rarely do we find international literature, international relations literature, appreciating or acknowledging the significance of social constructionism. It could be that in most cases, researchers haven't have time possibly to understand the contribution of social constructionism in international relations. It can also be that social constructionism is just engaging theory and practice in research. Therefore, it might have escaped knowledge or is escaping knowledge of most of the researchers. And I was quite fortunate to get to know more about social constructionism in my research. I'm not going to delve much about my PhD research, but I want to share with you the relevance and efficacy of actually social constructionism in international relations so that we really build capacity and get to find new data with new perspectives. But before I do this, I want to share with you the objectives of this presentation. First, I wish after my presentation, listeners will be in a position actually to advance arguments on the significance of and applicability of social constructionism as emerging research too. Secondly, I wish participants and those who are listening to me could be in a position actually to differentiate with the use of examples, of course, between social constructionism and other forms of research, such as positivism. I'm going to explain a bit about that. And the last point I would want you to take home with is possibly to explain at least 3 typologies of social constructionism and their efficacy or relevance in international research. So these are 3 objectives among many that I would want to pursue in my presentation. So basically the presentation layout shall follow that format. First, we are going to help each other understand what we mean by social constructionism. In other words, conceptualizing social constructionism. And we want also to explain why we feel, and strongly so, why social constructionism is an emerging research tool in international relations. And for us to claim that, it means we should engage in a comparative analysis between social constructionism and other research tools like positivism. So we are going to do that comparison together. And like I earlier indicated, what are some of the forms of social constructionism and what does a researcher actually need to do when actually is conversant or she's conversant with various forms. And then I will have concluding remarks and suggesting areas for future research. Let me begin by actually looking at the tenets of social constructionism by asking basic, born kind of questions to say, what is social? Because social constructionism comes from such words and phrases like social and constructionism. So what is social? And what is a construct? What then is social constructionism? So we built our definition from the, as much as we might want to have definitions from scholars, good as they may be, but I think social constructionism is self-explanatory. So social is in reference to communities and societies. That's what it entails. And then construct is referring to how those societies, how those communities make meaning of their existence, of their experiences, of everything that they engage in. So it is a society that makes meaning. That's what social constructivism is all about. So you are aware that parts of the society exist. I'm using parts because people are geographically dotted almost everywhere. So parts of the society exist. This is, we agree, but they have to construct and reconstruct meaning of their experiences through social interaction. This is a catchphrase in terms of conceptualizing social construction through social interaction. You heard from Dr. Ari that when we are looking at political economy, the central tenet of political economy is to look at categories of people and their perception to reality. He talked about optimists, he talked about pessimists, he talked about even radicals. Those are categories of people. They have got their social interaction and they make meaning based on their category. But then social construction asks us a very hard question. How do you mine data? How do you get data from these different scales of people and make meaning out of that data? So you don't find much research focusing on this kind of understanding of social realities from the social interaction. So there are also scholars like Gegen. Apparently, Gegen is one scholar who wrote extensively on social aspects, not international relations. And he says, I asked this important question to say, how do people actually understand each other? How do radicals, for example, understand each other and become a group? How do they make meaning out of their behavior? How do people in authority make meaning of their subjects, right? How do they communicate? That's what Gegen is asking us to look at. How do they communicate, right? Or understand each other. So basically, the first launchpad is to understand the political economy aspect of it. And by political economy, as Dr. Ari has laid bare, is that it's looking at different scales of people and the power dynamics inherent among these different people. But social construction is saying, identify those categories. After identifying those categories, try to establish meaning making of those categories, right? So I would want also us to understand before we move further, a little bit further, to say there is a difference between social constructionism and social constructivism. Social constructionism, like I've explained, refers to how the society make meaning of their behavior, of their experience, right? Of their understanding of development. But social constructivism looks basically not on a society, it looks at an individual. And it makes a claim that nothing exists beyond the mindset of an individual. So social constructivism looks at an individual. Social constructionism looks at the society. This is the remarkable difference between the two. So I'm not very comfortable with social constructivism personally, because we don't look at individuals in research in most cases. We look at how people relate and make meaning between and among themselves. So why do we want to make a claim in this presentation that social constructionism is an emerging research approach in international relations? The answer, which makes it distinct, is the use and the focus of language. Language is quite critical. in terms of understanding our research. Rarely do we find research approaches and even international relations focusing on language. So social constructionism is reminding us that it is important to focus at language, which provides form on which people structure and package their experience. How do people, for example, in development, express themselves or package their experiences? How do, for example, radicals say, no, that's fine. Aid to us is not significant, because they're like packaging their experiences. You need to look at their language, and it is this language that makes policy. So any researcher needs to construct this language and try to draw a comparative analysis with other categories of people. So language is quite key, right? Like what Bear said, in most cases, Bear, this is Vivian Bear, one of the authors, very, very authoritative author in social constructivism, saying language constructs the world. And a form of social action where when people talk to each other, the world gets constructed. Right? So the definitions of poor, the definitions of rich, the definitions of all those categorizations that we experience are constructs. And these constructs are reinforced by language. So any researcher in political economy needs to understand the significance of social constructivism. And I bet you, if you want to analyze most of the research in international relations right now, they don't focus on the use of language and how groups of people actually construct meaning making. So this is an emerging research tool that can really open up new horizon in terms of research. So again, we've got other authors like Crotty in research. Meanings are constructed by human beings as they engage with the world they are interpreting. Don't forget that people are busy interpreting the world. If you go to an interview right now, what you are getting is an interpretation. So in research, in most cases, apparently, I've been given a contract to conduct a research by United Nations using social constructivism, and this research is running for almost 2 years, looking at 14 international organizations on peace building and international relations. And what I seem to find, like Crotty is saying, is that in most cases in research, people are focusing on the interpretations themselves. You don't find a researcher focusing on the language that has been deployed to interpret. So it's just like climbing a tree from leaves, instead of actually following up the proper channel. So it's important for us to understand that language itself is performative. By performative, we mean to say language is action. So as a researcher, you need to understand the critical aspect of language. So this is what I'm trying to say. We've got renowned philosophers like Michael Foucault. I think we are all familiar. And Michael Foucault is so comfortable in using the word discourse. He's not comfortable in using the word language, but in place of language, he uses the word discourse. And this is what Michael Foucault says. And the like. Remember, Michael Foucault is one author who wrote about governmentality, where Ari was talking about when you are looking at political economy, look at governmentality. The domination of people by those in authority, but using actually very nice language, very interesting policies, very good actually discourses, especially the international organizations that come to our country. This is what Michael Foucault says actually, that language constructs the topic. It defines and produces the object of our knowledge. It governs the way a topic can be meaningfully talked about and reasoned about. If the international community comes and say, guys, you are poor, For example, the way they come to Africa, they say, oh, you guys, you are very poor. What happens? They've constructed a language and we embrace it as poor people and we live it and then we experience it as people. Not knowing that that form of language is governmentality, is the way the international or the NGOs are dominating the indigenous communities. So that's one aspect there that we need to look at. Now, this is very important. Why we consider social constructionism as an emerging tool. Other tools of research actually are never comfortable and are not comfortable in the use of social primary data. Now, social constructionism is saying it is important for any researcher to know that language is constructed through tweets, hashtag communities have even emerged, blogs, and natural conversations, and online newspapers, television, radio programs, and provisions of commentary. I want to tell you that for those that have done their PhDs, your supervisors are never comfortable with what? Social primary data. They prefer that you use actually the conventional data. You go out and interview and do this, yet there is this rich mine of data that social constructionism rely on. So researchers that are emerging as well, researchers that are coming out there, please, you need to be aware of the advantage of these because right now we are in the COVID period, that is COVID-19 period. Where are you going to get the community? The community is in their house. How do you get to understand what they are thinking? How do you get to understand their feelings? You have to rely on primary data, social primary data, which are tweets, which are hashtags and the like, and make meaning out of their feelings and perceptions toward possibly the government's intervention toward the COVID. I'm aware that, yes, these tweets and the like have got ethical implications, but in social constructionism, they don't have. They are a rich source of information and the like. I would want to shift to another slide. I could be late. There are also several assumptions of social constructionism, right? The first is that reality per se is constructed and reconstructed. In other words, if you are researching, in most cases, about political economy, know that the radicals can turn out to be the optimists one day after reconstructing a certain idea to their advantage. What makes ideas and reality to be constructed and reconstructed are personal interests that each one of us pursue. So this is the reason why even optimists can tend to be radicals. Even structuralists can tend actually to be what? To be optimists. So a researcher should actually pattern it out and identify these various changes. So this is one big assumption brought in by social constructionism to international research, that you need to follow pattern, you need to follow changes, you need to follow continuities and disjunctures, right? So what has been considered reality can be disconstructed, increasing the possibility of the same reality to be reconstructed. So you need to follow shifts. I've never read, in most cases, very few articles that I've read that followed shifts, that follow changes in terms of perception and attitude. I can also get this opportunity to criticize my friend here, Dr. Ari, to say, after identifying all these different categories of people, your next research should focus on how these groups of people, these categorizations, and have actually changed over time. Optimists never started off as optimists. No. Radicals never started off as radicals. No. So they constructed and reconstructed. So your role is actually to follow those changes, and it makes your research very interesting. So there's also reframing and reshaping of the reality, and there is always a heavy contestation between, for example, the government, the civilians, the security, the NGOs, and external factors. You find this in development, like you have seen Dr. Ari actually explaining. Why are there contestations? Because the reality is not permanent. It shifts like shifting sand. I don't know whether here in Africa, you'd find there is always a fight between the government and civil society, between the security sector sometimes and the civilians, because they've got these multiple realities. And these people actually share different levels of power. As such, the way they construct their reality is remarkably different. So I want to say here that from the assumptions, reality changes, and as contextual factors keep on shifting, like I've been saying. What makes the radical shift is the context. Once the context shifts, the radical shift. In part of my PhD research actually established this. The once colonial, I was looking at policing in Zimbabwe, in peacetime Zimbabwe. So I established the following, that before the police never came with the local people here. The police was a product of the British, which was a colonial master. But then the British were defeated by the locals here, and the locals became the masters now. So we have got 4 layers now of people that are there. The once colonial government, which is white settlers, have now become the civilians. The once civilians have now become the government. So out of those 2 groups, I've got 4 layers of people. So social constructivism tells us to follow each change so that we get to understand the perceptions toward even good governance, right? So I would want to, tell me the time, Ari. I would want to look at the relationship, why I would prefer social constructivism to positivism. Positivism, for those that do research, is that kind of research that says, right, reality is one. Dr. Ari presented on the various categorizations of people in a society. How can these categories of people have one reality? So if you look at most of the researches in international research relations, I can talk of Sever, I can talk of actually Bazen, I can talk about almost 100 authors. They relied heavily on positivist attitude without actually understanding the need to put people in categories and identify the multiple realities underlying each category. So positivists are those people saying reality is one. One social construction is saying, I know there are multiple layers of realities because in each community, there are multiple categories of people. Social constructivists are also counter-argue, but we cannot step outside humanity. Whereas positivists say, we need just to focus on an individual. We need to focus, in order for us to understand, we just need to focus on an individual. If you look at, possibly you might be looking at your master's, I'm supervising some master's programs here. If you look at the questionnaires of most of my students, they simply want to say, I'm looking at this individual and I want to understand what this individual thinks. This is good, but good questions ask how that individual think in relation to a phenomenon. So in most cases, researchers don't look at that relationship. Social constructionism is reminding us that when we are mining data from an individual in relation to the phenomena, in relation to other people, not as an individual per se. So these are some of the things that we need to understand and the like. So in social construction, in positivism, there is no reconstruction of reality, because the reality is just one. You cannot reconstruct it and the like. So positivists also consider reality as law of nature. It's predestined, it's preordained, it's given. So it's a question of you just going there and take it and use it, which then takes me to another important aspect of positivists that I hate most as a researcher, that there is a power dynamics which is there between a positivist researcher and the object of study. There is no relationship here. There is power imbalance. But social constructionists, because of the approach in terms of relationship, the researcher and the researchee are equal. As such, the knowledge generated by the researcher is co-produced, is co-authored. Unlike the positivist, where you stand a distance from the knowledge that you have been given from the said object. So these are critical aspects of social constructivism. There are several arguments that are there that I can pursue. I will leave this slide, but the most important aspect that I want to conclude with is that quite often, as much as international relations might rely on positivist approach, even in terms of development, it makes this serious assumption that the researcher is the holder of knowledge. Because social constructionism reminds us that no, a researcher is not the holder of knowledge. You are there just to facilitate a dialogue such that yourself as a researcher and the researchee generate knowledge collaboratively. So knowledge is a collaborative product. That's one thing that I like most about social construction against other forms of research which fall under the positivist approach. I just want to shift my discussion to say, now, for any researcher in social constructivism, you need to be conversant with different categories of social constructivism. I'm going to raise 3 categories, of which you are going to give comments, and I'm also going to say how significant they are in terms of research. The first group, or where you need to belong, or where you can belong as a researcher, is the radical social constructionism. You might consider yourself as a radical social constructionist. Here, if you're a researcher, reality is constructed and co-produced through interaction, aided by the use of language, which produces a shared understanding. If you're somebody who is very radical, and in terms of social construction, pursue language. In other words, your research can actually focus on meaning making. To say, my study on political economy, for example, on COVID-19, shall deploy radical social constructionism in order to understand how people describe this. So a researcher can focus on that. It is dangerous for you just to be using social constructivism as a bigger term. You need to further narrow and identify one area of social constructivism your research should pursue. The second category is the contextual social constructionist. This kind of researcher simply focuses or analyzes the context. I hope you get to understand what I'm writing. So contextual social constructionist, you are paying particular attention in terms of the context. When people select, when classify and interpret reality they build, is because of the culture, the political, and the economic context. This is where Ari brought in a very important, and Ari's research falls under that category of social constructivism. That's where you find context mattering a lot. So what does the context do? It produces the political economy in terms of interaction of people, right? And then the third category is the postmodern social constructionism. In other words, if you are this kind of a researcher, you are looking at the most important aspect. You are now deconstructing the narratives that have been given and reconstructing new knowledge. In other words, you are challenging the existing system, the existing status quo, and bring new nuances in terms of the way forward. This approach is very important, especially when you are studying groups that belong to the margins of the society, such as women. I heard Dr. Ari talking about gender issues. They belong to postmodern social constructionism. We are talking about issues of development. They belong to the postmodern social constructionism, right? How do you deal with the indigenous groups? I saw Zaid somewhere, as one of the participants. I think he had a very interesting PhD research, and the research is located more directly under the postmodern social constructionism, because it's talking about indigenous groups and their marginalization. So these are the three categories that you need to identify and pursue. Don't generalize and I would want them to, in the interest of time, to look at the limitations of social constructionism, and then we have a discussion. Getting use of language is quite difficult. I think earlier I raised issues of three P's in my presentation. That reality itself is pluralistic. That reality itself is plastic, and that reality is predicated, therefore approximated. So this is the challenge of social constructionism. We don't have one reality. We have got multiple realities. As such, you'd find that it's difficult to understand the language itself. Communities shift, context shifts, and it poses a challenge to any researcher. However, for me, it's not a big limitation per se, but it is an advantage in the sense that you can be in a position to follow and pursue and explore patterns, continuities, as well as points of departure. And this is what I've shared with you today, and I really appreciate. Before then, I have some concluding remarks. Social construction opens the door to multiple ways of seeing the world. Please, international relations should open up to social constructionism. There's a microscope that can see the world at an expanded horizon than social constructionism. And the researcher who uses a social constructionism is that kind of an innovative researcher. If you want to be so creative, of which the world right now is looking at creative research, please use social constructionism, because it helps you to identify multiple categories of people. It helps you to identify multiple layers and complexities inherent in any society. And once you identify them and analyze them, you better come up with possibly commensurate intervention strategies that really solve problems that are there in the society. So creativity is quite key to whoever is using social constructionism. Thank you very much for listening to me. Let's hope I was in a position to manage the time. Extra readings are there. There are critical authors like Vivian Bauer, there are critical authors like Barb and May Tim. These are reference points in terms of building up social constructionism. Thank you very much, presenter.
Okay.
Facilitator, sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kudakwashi. It is a very insightful presentation that you have delivered. I catch some points, some important points that you have delivered, that social constructionism is driven by questions that how can we perceive how a society being constructed? And also, you have mentioned that social constructionism is different with constructivism. Social constructionism is focused on society and constructivism on individual. And also, you have said that language is very important in social constructionism. That if we avoid this, there will be some error or not good in our research. And also, you have mentioned that there are three specializations in social. If you want to study constructionisms, that you can be a radical social constructionist, and also conceptual, and also postmodernist. Thank you so much, Dr. Kudakwashi. Dear participants, now we come to the Q&A sessions. If you have questions for our speakers, you can raise your hand, or you can say the questions, write the questions in our chat room. Is there any questions, participants?
Or I can ask to Kuda.
Okay, it's okay.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay.
So Kuda, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, my question is, like, you mentioned about the three groups, in social constructivism. Okay?
Right.
So the radical or something like, the other one. So basically,
the contextual, you're right.
Yeah. So basically, these are three schools in the social constructivism. Yeah.
Yeah.
And many scholars have used these approaches into their research, right? Okay, so
not many scholars actually in international relations. That's what I'm trying to challenge here. That not many scholars have actually explored this rich kind of approach in understanding dynamics that are there in international relations, and particularly in development. Hardly do you find authors focusing on, for example, a radical social constructionist, which pays particular attention to the language which is dominant, because it is the language that builds policies. It is the language that actually build up programs. It is the language that actually helps people to move. You don't find analysis which is systematic, which is rigorous and critical in looking at the efficacy of language in international relations. Yeah.
And also, I've seen your last presentation about the further readings that we can take a look at, if we want to use this approach framework into our research, right? But the thing is, I haven't seen any example. For example, a person like you or other scholars, for example, who have used this into their research, and they publish. So the idea is for me, you have point out some list of reference,
right,
for us to read.
Right.
Sometimes, because we are here, there are some people here, like the participants, they are students, they are lectures. They wanted to use to see example of how the scholar use this in the perspective into practical. Where they for example, an issue of security in somewhere in Africa, for example, that will be benefit for us, because this presentation we will share it to many many people, then they will immediately be able to go and read that the article. So from the framework into the action, the reality, how they examine the,
Yeah. Let me respond by 2 points there. I can actually, I write a lot, especially in the area of security and social constructionism. I'm so much willing to share some of my writings and perspectives on social constructionism. I'm also willing actually to develop some kind of areas of expertise in terms of exchange with your students in the area of social constructionism. And I might be in a position to share some of the reports that I'm doing with Mennonite Central Committee, for example, United Nations, and United Nations Women on social constructionism, and how it is actually shaping their understanding about the dynamics that are there in the society, and how they've now started to tailor-make some programs based on that information. So I'm so much willing to share on that. As I said, this is a very emerging field. It requires an expert actually to pursue it. I know one author, Vivian Barr. If you can follow that author, Vivian Barr, who wrote on social constructionism, and she's on blog as well. You can follow the ideas. I can also give a website of some authors that are trying to come up to use social constructionism. But I tell you, it's a very interesting field which is emerging, and students need to be actually combining both political economy and social constructionism, because people are tired of the traditional approaches. Yet, and even the previous research, they've left out quite a number of, I've never seen a researcher who brings out people into categories like you have done. I think we shared political economy, the optimists, the radicals, and the like. Once you put them in category, what do you do with them? So that's what we are debating, social constructionism. Let's understand each group before we make judgment to say, the radicals are bad people. No, we need to stand back a bit and say, let's understand their language and what does this language mean to us. That's why you find actually in Africa, those who fought in the liberation struggle, saying they are being oppressed, are the West oppressors right now. Why is it so? Because people failed to understand what it means when you shift from one group and getting into another group. Right. So, so let's hope I've answered that. And I'm so much willing to share more and do more work with your department and Zain there, not for payment anyway, but to exchange ideas and other things. Yeah.
Where's Bang Zaid? Any question?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kudakwasi, and thank you to Dr. Ripaksi for the questions. For the participants, is there any questions?
May I?
Yes, of course, Dr. Zaid Nasution. Time is
Thank you. Sorry, thank you very much, Mas Mahbi Maula. I think this is the first time I met you. I just okay. I want to say hello to Kuda and Ari.
Come on, man.
Sorry, it seems like I have a problem with my screen here. So you cannot see my face anymore.
No,
I don't know why.
No, I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay. Or maybe how about if let's say I go out first and then join in again? Maybe the problem will be fine.
No, you can go ahead. I'm just joking. Don't worry.
No, yeah. Okay. Actually, maybe I'm not going to ask, but just to confirm, maybe to confirm my understanding about what you have said about social construct constructivism, right? Social
Right.
constructivism. Yeah. As far as I know, as far as I understand, I think that social constructivism is something that is about terms, about language, about meaning, and about the interpretation of terms, and how
Right.
how you can let's say inject other people, convince other people, or influence other people or the society by using
Right.
that terms.
Right.
Whether it is you can use it through, let's say, from government side, or from NGO, or from the expert, from science and everything.
Right.
And when it becomes so big and it will and become so established, then that they will justify, they will determine which term is the truth and which one is not, something like that,
Oh,
right?
brilliant. Yeah,
uh,
brilliant.
and after that, when it is become so powerful, then another kind of terms, another kind of definition, another kind of interpretation will be eliminate, will be diminished, or will be, they'll try uh, to to put it somewhere and not become the dominant
Yes.
discussion, not become dominant narrative or something like that.
Very good.
uh, and 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 uh, and uh, the way we can challenge that, the way we can challenge that kind of establishment is by, let's say, using another terms, using another interpretation, using another justification. With
Right.
the term that you said, with, I don't know, deconstruct, deconstruct,
Deconstruct. Yes.
deconstruct,
Right.
and then reconstruct, or something like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Just
I,
yeah,
I know
because
you.
yeah, because for, I think it is very interesting, because it seems like there are so many people. What is it? When they heard something very regularly or periodically, they
Right.
think that terms or that interpretation is the right one or the truth, and
Right.
they can they what is it? Sometimes we need skeptic
Skepticism. Yeah. Yeah.
skepticism for this kind of situation, right? And
Right.
then we try to introduce another terms and another interpretation for something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my general understanding for what you have said, sir.
Oh, brilliant for me. Brilliant. I think it's a brilliant one. You have put it quite even better than I did.
No.
So Zaid, and possibly everyone listening, just building on what Zaid said, I might also want to pick up some aspects from his research. Apparently, I had a chance to read his abstract and the like, and borrowed a lot of ideas about territoriality using social, and then I used the social constructionism, something
Yeah.
possibly he didn't use for his research. But for me, he helped me a lot to understand what territoriality is all about, is special. I just want to draw or to your attention to say, we have got the language called indigenous. Am I right? Do you use this word?
Yes.
Do you use this word?
Yeah.
Indigenous.
Yes.
Who came up with this word indigenous? Because the local people themselves don't call themselves indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting the point that Zaid was talking about?
Yeah, constructivism. Yeah.
Yes, this is social constructionism. Yes, to say who brought this term indigenous and what was its purpose. And its purpose, according to political economy, is governmentality. It's a way of controlling certain groups. So the way, oppression does not start with force or a cohesive force, it starts with language. Because the local themselves don't call themselves indigenous, or people who belong to the margins of the society or the periphery of the periphery. Because they are also experts, specialists, knowledgeable people there among the indigenes themselves. But because of the kind of categorization of people in the society, certain frames of language is used. And postmodernist researcher who is getting to understand or who is researching on the indigenous people has to understand the dynamic of this language. You first have to ask a question yourself: from which point has this language been used? And who has used it? And for what meaning? You realize that even the meaning of indigenous actually would change over time, because it's serving different purposes and serving different interests for different groups of people. So any interesting research in international relations has to follow some of these critical patterns, as Zaid has just said. So for if I were to evaluate a researcher who is looking at indigenous people or on issues of territoriality, I would locate that researcher under the category of postmodern social constructionism, because we are challenging issues that have been actually put forward to serve certain interests. Thank you so much, Zaid, for such a wonderful commentary.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to Dr. Kudakwashi for the answer, and thank you to Dr. Zaid Nasution for the questions. For the other participants, is there any questions? Is there any more questions? Okay. Okay, if no, maybe while waiting for the others to have questions, I would like to ask questions to Dr. Kudakwashi. Honestly, I'm still a student studying undergraduate, and I'm so interested with the social constructionism's theoretical approach that you have mentioned, that it is a new emerging theory that international relations scholars still there's so there's the number of scholars that applying this is still still not much. And my question is, what is the deficiency? What will be the lack of this theory, of this approach to be applied? Is there maybe can this theoretical approach be applied to every topics in international relations, or maybe it only can be applied in particular topics? Or what is the generally, what is the deficiency of this theoretical approach to be applied by us students of international relations? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think as a student, there are 5 categories of international relations, basically in terms of thematic motifs. However, we are looking basically at politics and how it plays out in issues of international relations. There is also the issue of economy as a critical aspect, and you pursue issues of globalization and the like. The other important and a very critical aspect is emigration and migrancy topic in international relations. This is mobility of people from one region to the other and the like. So then the other aspect is that of gender in international relations, which has now replaced issues of intercultural elements. Gender has replaced that as the 4th topic. And then the last one is development as a key aspect of international relations, basically. So out of those 5 critical areas, out of those 5 thematic motifs, you, assuming that you pick up the political aspect of it, it depends on what you are trying to do. If you want to pursue on the poor people politics of local communities, basically, yes, it works out very well, excellently well. But should you now decide to pick up, right, international relations, in other words, global relations, it might have some challenges. It has got some limitations. So my point is that its applicability, its efficacy is dependent or largely hinges on the kind of topic that you have actually come up with. But for most of international relations, that's why I find that most of the international relations guys don't want to or are running away from it or are scared of using it because of its complexity. You might not need to categorize people who are from different continents with different factors and the like. So it might be extremely difficult. But it is a handy tool in terms of gender. It is a handy tool in terms of development. In development, you can apply it everywhere. Unlike actually in politics, because of different shifting political issues and different forms of politics that are there in the world. So this is my answer, and this is my experience when I'm using actually international relations. Development and gender, I tell you, you can actually apply it. I'm not saying when you're choosing a topic, you have to choose a topic that falls between those 2 categories, but I think you can test it and apply it in other areas as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Futakwashi. So I catch the point that if I want to apply this theoretical approach, the best topics to be used is development and genders. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
I will read your papers, your writings, so I can comprehend deeply and broadly the concept that is used. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr.
Yeah.
Futakwashi.
Thank you very much. I'll share those papers actually.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there any questions anymore, participant? Okay. If no, dear speakers, Dr. Aripaksi and Dr. Kutakwashi, I have some friends that want to ask, want to have your PowerPoint presentations. Is it possible? Please, maybe, yeah. How can I get those presentations? Maybe you can share it with Dr. Aripaksi, and I will ask Dr. Aripaksi to have Dr. Kutakwashi presentations. Is it possible?
Yeah, thank you. I've already given the presentation to Dr. Ari, so you can use it without any problem.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kutakwashi.
Thank you so much.
Okay, if there is no more to be discussed, maybe Dr. Zain Maulana want to have closing remarks or something want to say?
Thank you. That was wonderful discussions, Kuda and Ari, and also thank you to Bang Zaid for the comments, and all
Okay.
participants. Maybe Kuda, probably, and then in the next time we'll contacting you for probably for other discussions, and really nice to see your presentations. And I also have read some of your articles, your publications. That were,
Wow.
that's really nice. We are waiting for your next publications, and all of us, and also Dr. Ari. Probably he's as far as I know, he's also prepared for his second publications, probably under review, the article, the paper. So yeah, thank you for all of you, especially for Dr. Kuda and Dr. Ari.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate, and it was so nice meeting you guys. And should there be any questions after this, please let them come in so that we build up. So it's an honor and privilege, especially from the director, to recognize our efforts and to give us the platform to share our thoughts and the like. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you to Dr. Zain Maulana and also to Dr. Kudak. And maybe this is the end of our meeting today, our discussions. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Aripatsi for having you with us today. It is a very nice discussions about political economy. And also to Dr. Kudak Washi, thank you so much once again. Maybe we will contact you for further collaboration, of course. And yeah, it is a very nice discussions about social constructionism. And also thank you to Dr. Zaid Nasution, Dr. Zain Maulana, and to other participants. And maybe, yeah, that's all. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kuda. We keep in touch. Yeah?
Okay. Okay, sure.
Sorry, you cannot see me. I have problem with my screen. Sorry, Kuda. Oh, udah cabut kudanya. Oh, udah cabut. Aduh. Ini problem
nanti ngobrol-ngobrol lagi tuh bisa ngundang Tani Ali siapa?
Ya. Ini Bradford punya cerita nih Mas Zain.
Leeds punya cerita kapan? Banyak.
Nanti giliran di sini Bang Zaid ya.
Iya. Mantap lah.
Iya, dari kemarin dijajah Bradford terus ini.
Iya ya, kemarin siapa? Si
minggu depan untuk Bradford lagi minggu depan.
Bima.
Iya.
Kemarin Bima ya. Ini
iya, Bima Bradford ya.
Bima Bradford. Iyalah, mainkan lah, mantap itu.
Ya, kayak menarik juga tuh Bang, apa namanya? Ya kayaknya konsep-konsep territoriality itu kayak model-model governmentality-nya Foucault lah ya, bisa apa ya? Bisa dipakai di banyak tempat gitu ya, banyak kasus gitu.
Iya, tapi belum seterkenal governmentality lah, karena
Iya. Tapi
iya.
Ya maksudnya hanya untuk studi antropologi aja gitu.
Apa si territoriality? Bisa untuk governmentality bisa.
Aku ambil sholat ya.
Antropologi bisa, political ecology bisa, macam-macam lah. Kalau aku ditanya ya macam-macam lah ceritanya pasti.
Kayaknya untuk studi HI juga udah pernah baca belum Bang? Ada yang pakai di studi HI?
Oh, kalau HI enggak kayaknya. Kayaknya enggak sampai ke situ. Mungkin ada, cuman nggak sampai detail ke lapangan kan. Kalau teritorial itu kan sampai ke peta itu nanti masuk ke